Alright, and hello everyone, it is me, Jay Burns, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you all how to make this bracelet right here. This bracelet is my own original design, and it is called the Wheat-Wheaties bracelet, and I have no idea how I came up with the name. I mean, the bands in the middle kind of look like W's, but anyway, to make this bracelet, you're going to need a hook that is either double-sided, or you're going to need two hooks. So here I am going to be using the double-ended hook here in my tutorial, but if you're going to be using two hooks, I will show you what you need to do with two hooks. You're also going to need a clip. I'll be using a C-clip, and then you will also need rubber bands. Now there are two different groups here. There we go. There are two different groups here, the A and B group. The A group of rubber bands is going to be the bands that make up the bracelet, so pretty much all the black bands you see here in this example. And then the B rubber bands are going to be the bands that give the bracelet its name, and they're going to be all the little W shapes here. Another thing you're going to need to make this bracelet is a lot of patience, because this bracelet's going to take a long time to make, and it's also pretty tedious and a little difficult to do when because you're going to have a lot of bands on your hook at a time. So yeah, you're going to need a lot of patience. But anyway, in the description I'll have the number of bands you'll need for each section and how long each section is. And yeah, just use the pause button if you need more time to get your supplies. So we're going to go ahead and get our hooks, or our hook if you're using a double-ended hook. And I'm going to go ahead and start out with my double-ended hook. We're going to start by making the cap band. So we're going to get one of our A color bands. There we go. Oh, and there's a lot of bands that roll away in this tutorial as well. It's great. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and make this band into a cap band by twisting it on our hook and putting that new shape we create onto our hook as well. Then, we're also going to get our first B rubber bands, which will be the W's, and I'll call them the W bands in this tutorial. We're going to get 6 of these, and we're going to just get all of them. Yeah, so the W bands. We're just going to go ahead and get all of them and put them all on our hook. So, all 6 will just be set on our hook like so. Then we're going to get 2 of our A color bands, and we're going to put them on our hook like so, and then slide all of these bands we have on our hook right now onto those 2 new rubber bands. Alright, another thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we have one band. One of those rubber bands is definitely those 2 middle loops, and one is the 2 outer loops. And then we're going to get one more A color band, slide those bands onto it, and then make sure you pick up only the 2 outer loops. And those 2 outer loops should be the same rubber band because we're doing a fishtail stitch. There you go, pick up only the first and last loop, and they should be the same rubber band. Oh, I already said that. But anyway, once you've done that there, now we're going to take all those W bands, and we're going to just flip them over onto our hook like so. And now you're probably getting a slight idea of how there's going to be a lot of bands. Just wait, there's going to be twice as many in a few minutes here. Alright, so next what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at the fishtail bands we have here, so the A color bands, and we're going to look at them as 2 separate parts. So those first 2 loops that are closest to our hook, we're going to look at those as one part of the bracelet. We're not going to pay attention to those other 2 loops. We're going to go ahead and get 4 A color bands, and we're going to add those as in fishtail stitches to those 2 loops there. So I'll show you here. We'll take our first band, and we're only going to put those first 2 loops closest to our hook, like that, onto our hook, and we're only going to do a fishtail stitch with these 2 loops. And you would grab this band here that is further away from your hook and put that back on. That's what you would slide back on for your fishtail stitch. Now you only have 3 loops here. The other 2 we're ignoring. Now we're going to go ahead and get the next A color band, and we're going to do a fishtail stitch with those 3 loops there and this band. So slide those bands or those loops on. And the only loops we're returning to our hook are the first and last loops that you had put on that new band. And they should be the same rubber band. Like I said, it's a fishtail stitch we're doing. And now it looks like a regular fishtail here. So now we're just going to go ahead and add the other 2 bands, doing regular fishtail stitches here. I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up. Use the pause button if you need more time. Alright, so once you've added those bands there, now what we're going to do is we're going to take what we have on our hook, and we're going to start working on the other side now. And to work on the other side, we're going to take what we have and flip it around. So, if you have a double-ended hook, all you would have to do is slide all these bands down to the other side, like this. But if you have 2 hooks, let me go ahead and show you what you need to do with that. So let me just slide this back over. And what you're going to do if you have 2 hooks is you're going to take the other hook and point it so that it's pointing in the opposite direction of the hook with bands on it. So like I have here. And you're going to slide your hook going through all the bands on the hook you're using currently. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up because it takes me a while to do this. So whenever you get all the bands onto that new hook, you can go ahead and slide the older hook out, and now you have the bands already flipped for you on your second hook. And you see those 2 loops there are ready to be used or looped into, or whatever you call it. So I'm going to go ahead and put these bands back on my double-ended hook here real quick. Just give me a moment. Well, more like an instant, am I right? Anyway, now we have this side here, and we're going to do the exact same thing we did before. We're going to add 4 of our A color bands. And there's a Zoe here. That's my cat. Anyway, we're going to get one of those bands. We're going to add it, and we're going to do a fishtail stitch with these 2 loops here. And remember, it's that loop that's furthest away from your hook that you're going to put back on your hook for the fishtail stitch. Now we have 3 little loops, and we're going to get another band, and we're just going to treat this like a regular fishtail, except the middle loop is actually 2 loops. So what I mean is we're going to add that band, only the first and last loops, which should be the same rubber band, are going to get put back on your hook. And now it looks like you have a regular fishtail here on your hook, if you ignore all the other stuff that we have going on. And if you hear that lawnmower in the background, I apologize. Someone just could not wait to mow them on, so wait, mow the lawn. Oh crap, though. Anyway, now we're just going to go ahead and add these other 2 bands to the fishtail, just like a regular fishtail stitch would go. And I did do this a little quickly, so if you need more time, just pause. The pause button's your friend in this video, and in all my videos actually. Check out my other videos. Now I have to adjust the bands, which you're going to be doing a lot of in this bracelet making process. It's going to be great. So once you've done that there, another Zoe here. Oh man, this tutorial is full of distractions. This is not going well. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get another fishtail band. Oh my gosh, another A color band. and we're only going to return the very first loop, the very last loop, and all of those W bands to our hook. So you'll see once I do this here. So watch me first. You should always do that because I tend to change stuff a lot. It's not good. So we're sliding everything on. There's a lot of weight on this band, so you gotta not mess up. So only that very first loop there, then all of our W bands go back on our hook, and then that very last loop there goes back on. And that would be the fishtail stitch for here. So one thing that you need to remember here is that these bands, once you've done this step, they tend to uncross, so you need to make sure the next time you loom that you recross them as you're looming it. You'll see once we get there. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and get we're gonna get 6 more of our B color bands or W bands. And what we're going to do with them is we're going to be placing 3 at a time, and I'll show you what I mean here in a moment, but we're also going to get another A color rubber band as well. Another thing we're going to need is a helping band and helping clip, which I should have had a caption at the beginning of the video saying that you're going to need an extra band and clip to help. And here's how we're going to use it. So we're going to take the helping band and only those first 2 loops there, the ones that like to uncross, we're going to put those on that helping band, then use the helping clip and attach it to the helping band, and then we'll take the helping band off our hook. Then, once we've done that, we're going to take off only the first 4 of our W bands that are already on our hook. So we should have 2 left on our hook here when we finish. So those 2 there we're going to keep on, and then the rest are all going to come off. And now we're going to add 3 of our new W bands and slide those on there. And now we're going to put 2 of our older W bands back on, preferably the 2 that are kind of in the middle there. So put those back on your hook. And then we're going to get the other 3 W bands and we're going to put those onto our hook as well. Then we're going to return everything back to our hook. So we're going to return the last 2 old W band loops, and then these 2 loops that are on our helping band, we're going to go ahead and put those back on our hook as well. And I like to put the 2 loops directly back onto the band or the hook, and you may need to search for one of the loops because it might have went inside the fishtail there. So just make sure you get the correct 2 loops, and then once you have them back on your hook, you're going to take the helping band and helping clip off and put it off to the side for later, for the next time you're going to need them. Alright, now once you've added your W bands, we're going to go ahead and take our other A color band and we're going to add it. Another thing, make sure you're crossing those bands, so especially also the ones in the back there, because they uncross as well. They're the same thing on both sides. So what we're going to do with this band is we're only going to return that loop that's pretty tight on our hook, and then all the W bands. So watch what I'm doing here first. So we pull all of the bands on our hook onto this new rubber band. And now here's the fun part. Now we're going to need to make sure we recross those bands in there. And what I like to do is just go through both of the bands and pull the tighter loop that we need to get back on our hook. Just pull that with my hook through the other loop. And that seems to work for me, at least on this first side. But once we get over here, we're going to actually need to cross the band that's looser over the tighter one. It's always so difficult to get back on the hook, but you gotta get it back on there. And if it becomes too much of a problem, like if it's just really difficult and it's just too frustrating, you can just get the looser loop. And your bracelet will look a little funny, but it will be a lot less aggravating to do. Anyway, once you have done that there, now the pattern for making this design is going to happen. So finally, we're now to starting the pattern for making this design. So to start the pattern, you need to make sure you have 12 of your W bands on your hook, and you've added that band and done all that difficult looping there. And we're going to go ahead and get, well, it looks like I'm grabbing 3, but you're going to need 4. Ooh, magical one appeared. We're going to get 4 of these A-color bands, and we're going to place 2 of them first. And I say 2 because when you place those 2, there's just going to be something special that happens there. But anyway, you're actually just going to take 1 at a time, and we're going to pull only those first 2 loops, and also the first 2 W band loops, the older ones that we had placed before, onto our hook. Then we're going to do a fishtail stitch with those 2 loops like we had done at the beginning. So we're only going to get that band that's further away from our hook, and we'll end up with those 3 loops there. And we'll do another fishtail stitch with the second ones. So these 2 other A-color band loops that we had completely left alone on the other side of the hook, pretty much, we're just going to ignore them for this first part here. So we're going to do each side, one side at a time. Alright, so now we're going to get the second one, and we're going to do a fishtail stitch with those 3 loops there. And it's just that very first loop that you put back on your hook, and the very last loop you put back on your hook. And there you go. Now it's just like you have a regular fishtail on your hook, except you got 50 other bands on there. And we're just going to go ahead and add the other 2 A-color bands, doing just regular fishtail stitches. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that there. And I'll speed this up. Use the pause button if you need more time. Alright, so once you've added those bands, those 2, now we're going to take what we have here on our hook, and we're going to take it and flip it. So whether you have your 2 hooks, or your double-ended hook, you're going to go ahead and do the process you need to flip the bands around. So I'm just going to go ahead and slide all these bands over to the other side of the hook, because I have a double-ended hook I'll be using, or I am using. But anyway, once you have done that, now we're going to work on the other side. So you need to make sure you get those 2 loops that were on the other side of the fishtail we were working on before. Those 2 painful loops there. And it looks like mine came uncrossed, so I'm going to go ahead and just fix that real quick. There we go. Lovely. Make sure you fix your loops as well. That's why it's important to know how to make a fishtail on your hook, because having a little experience working with that, you'll know when those bands are up to no good over there. Alright, so anyway, now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing again. So we're going to be, as we did on the other side, so we're going to be doing a fishtail stitch with just those 2 loops, and the only loop you return will be that one that will be further from your hook when you put on the new bands. So we're going to go ahead and get 4 bands, take 1 of them, we're going to go ahead and do that fishtail stitch, only those first 2 A-color bands on your hook, and then also the 2 older W bands that were on your hook will go on. Now we're going to go ahead and worry about doing that fishtail stitch. So I'm pointing to that band that you need to grab. And this bracelet is so painful. So once you get that band onto your hook, there we go, fishtail stitch, wonderful. Now we're going to have 3 little loops that we're going to do another fishtail stitch with another A-color band. So only that first loop and that very last loop, which should be the same rubber band, or if they're not, then you're not doing a fishtail stitch. You're doing it wrong, sorry. But you guys just gotta do a fishtail stitch with that. And now you just gotta do it 2 more times, because now you have just what looks like a regular fishtail on your hook. And I'm gonna be quiet for a few seconds here now. Alright, so now you should have something like this here on your hook now. And we're almost finished with the pattern. So much has gone on right now. We've added 4 rubber bands on each side of the design. It's a lot of work, guys, but we're gonna make it through here. So now we're almost finished the first part of the actual pattern of making this design. We're gonna go ahead now, get another A color band, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull everything that's on our hook onto that new band. And the only bands we'll be returning are the newer W bands, that very first A color loop and that very last, including both of those fishtails. So the very first one of the A color loops and the very last one. But everything's going on to that new band. And I like to take everything just a few bands at a time because there's a lot of weight on this band here. There's a lot of weight on a lot of bands in this bracelet. This bracelet is just so stressful. So, see that very first loop there? Then all of the new W bands, which are green here in my example, and then that very last A color loop should be waiting to just be picked back up by that hook. And now you have that annoying tight band and that annoying loose band that likes to come on crossed. And that's how you know the pattern's getting ready to start over. And that's also how you know when to add your new W bands. So we're going to go ahead and get 6 more of our W bands, and the pattern's pretty much starting over here. So I'm going to show you one more time, and then I'm going to show you how to close off the bracelet. Oh, and I think there's a Zoe here. It's not helping. Alright, well anyway, we're going to go ahead and get our helping band and helping clip again. Yep, there it is. Get out of there. And we're just going to only take those first 2 loops. They don't have to be crossed or anything because we'll be putting them back on. Then put them on that helping band and then get the helping clip and attach it to the helping band loops. And once it's on, there we go, once it's on, we're going to go ahead and take the helping band off the hook, and we're going to take all of the W bands here. So now these are the old W bands. We're going to take only the first 4 of those loops off, and make sure that the 2 that you have left are on the same side of the ancient W bands that we have below them. So we're going to take 3 of our new W bands, put them on. Then we're going to take the 2 old W bands that are towards the middle, put them back on. Then we're going to take the other 3 new ones, put them on our hook, and then we're going to put the last 2 old W band loops back on, and then we're going to take those 2 loops on our helping band and put them on our hook. And when I said the ancient W bands, I meant the ones that we had added the very first time. So those ones down there, deep underground. And anyway, once those 2 those 2 loops there are back on your hook, you can get rid of that helping band for now. You're gonna need it very soon again, and you should have something like that there on your hook. Alright, now we're gonna go ahead and we're going to get an A color band. And here's the very fun part where we deal with those tight bands. So we're going to pull everything on our hook onto that new band. And don't forget to recross those other A color bands that you have on your hook, but they're going to come uncrossed when you put them on the band, so just don't even bother. Just cross them when they're on the band, or deal with it with your hook, or not deal with it and just get the easier to loop A color band there. So as you can see, I am struggling to get this stuff onto my new band. But now I have one, and now I'm going to go ahead, get that loop that I need to. So I go through both loops and pull the one that I need through the one that I don't need. Put it back on my hook. Then we're going to go through all of our W bands, the old ones and the new ones. we go, lovely. And then you'll see that one A-color band that you need to grab. It's really tightly attached to that band there. Make sure you cross the looser one over, unless you just give up and you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna take this looser one, and tight one can just be tight if it wants. And it takes me a little while to get this one onto my hook, or back on. So I'm gonna go ahead and just speed this part up here. Alright, so finally I got that stinking thing back on there. And now I should have something like this here on your hook. And now, pretty much the pattern is, well, I already said the pattern's starting over, but now we need to go ahead and get those two loops all separated, and the other two loops all separated, and it looks like they're crossed right. Yeah, thumbs up, good job. These over here are not doing a good job, they're doing a bad job. Recross. Bad bands. I'll probably have to recross them later. Great. Struggles of looming. Anyway, now it's all good. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start adding more bands for each side of the design. So we're going to get 4 A-color bands here for this side. And we're going to be doing a fishtail stitch with those 2 loops there, and then we're also going to put the first 2 old W bands onto that band as well. So first we're going to go ahead and deal with those fishtail stitch bands we're going to be using there. And we're also going to take those first 2 old W band loops, put them on the new band. Then go ahead and do that fishtail stitch with the 2 loops. And so you only take that loop that's further away from your hook. And now you have 3 loops on your hook. And remember, we're completely ignoring what's on the other side there. So anyway, now we're going to get the second band. We're going to do the fishtail stitch now with 3 loops. And we're going to completely ignore the middle one. So only the first and last band or loops there go back on your hook. And there you go. Now it's like we have a regular fishtail with 1,000 other bands here on our hook, but we're just paying attention to the fishtail here. So we're going to go ahead and add the other 2 A-color bands that we need, doing that fishtail stitch. Beautiful. Right now we're going to do one more time. Also beautiful, all beautiful here. Great. And so once you've done that, now we're going to take what we have here on our hook and we're going to just flip it around. So if you have 2 hooks, go ahead and do what you need to do. Use the pause button. If you have a double-ended hook, all we gotta do is slide on over like this. Then we gotta go searching through the Amazon of bands here to get our 2 loops that we need for the other side. There we go. And like I predicted before, oh, wait a second, what's that? Oh, one of my bands did not make it onto my hook. Alright, let me go and fix that. So in this 25+ minute video of me rambling, we also have more struggles here. So you can see I have 4 bands on one side, and that's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to have 3. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and start working on this next side, and we have those 2 A-color loops and the 2 old W bands we need to add to our first of 4 rubber bands here. So we're going to take both of those A-color loops and then also the first 2 old W bands, put them on this new band. Then we're going to go ahead and do the fishtail stitch with just those 2 loops of A-color bands, and I put those, oh my, just so much going on in this tutorial. So I had to move those W bands out of the way so I can grab the A-color bands. And there we go. So only that loop that's further away from your hook is what you return to your hook. Alright, now we have those 3 loops. We're going to go ahead and get another A-color band and do a fishtail stitch with those 3 loops. I'm going to pull up only that first and last loop there back onto our hook, and now it looks like we have a regular fishtail on our hook. So now we're going to go ahead and just add the other 2 A-color bands, just like regular fishtail. And that's about it. This is like the easiest part of a bracelet. I like to just think, when I'm making this part here, just like to think, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna finish this bracelet and it's gonna look great. Alright, happy motivation boosting time is over. Now, it's time for the struggle. So, yep, happy, yeah, not for long. We're gonna go ahead and get another A-color band. And we're gonna get rid of that last old W band there. Now, don't think we're gonna get rid of our problems when we get rid of that W band, but we're gonna get rid of it, at least. So, the very first and very last A-color loops, including both of those fishtails, are what's going to return to our hook. And I'm just fixing my problem there, but there are more problems to come. Had to rebalance the W bands there. So all the new W bands will return to our hook, and the very first A-color loop and the very last A-color loop will return to our hook. So you'll see here what I'm doing. So first A-color loop back on. Now we're gonna get all the W. We're gonna get all of them this time. We're gonna get all of them. Then put those all back on our hook, and then that very last A-color loop will go back on as well. And I wasn't lying. Our problems are back. It looks like we have those bands that never went across. They're back on our hook. Yippee! So that's the pattern. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how you're going to go about closing off the design and, just ending all of your struggles with this bracelet. Unless you make another one, which, why would you do that? That would be just terrible. Don't do that. Only make one if you're even going to make one. Alright, so now you should have what looks like that there on your hook. You should only have 6 W bands on your hook, and then you should have those bands that never went across on there as well. So we're gonna go ahead and start by getting one of our A-color bands here. Oh. Okay, I was so confused. Alright, we're gonna get 4, not 1, but 4 of our A-color bands now. Got me confused, there are all these bands appearing on the screen. Alright, so now... Oh, what's going on? Make up your mind, Jay Burns. Alright. Okay, now we're going to get 1. Yes, okay, we're going to get 1. We're going to slide those first 2 loops on. And then we're going to slide the first 2 W loops here. And we're going to call them new because there's no newer ones to make them old. So we're just going to take those first 2 loops there and make sure they're on the same side of the middle W bands from before, as I showed you there. And we're going to go ahead and do the fishtail stitch. And remember, these are the bands that never went across. So this is the ultimate challenge here. So we have all these bands, and we got to get that little tight one down in there, back on our hook. And this was the part when I was like, you know what? If you want to pick up that looser band, who's going to stop you? Go ahead and do that. It's not going to mess anything up except how your bracelet looks. But struggles aren't always supposed to be pretty, so, So now we have our 3 loops. Now we're going to go ahead and get another A-color band, slide only those first 3 loops onto there, and what's going to be returned to our hook is that very first one and that very last one, just like a fishtail stitch is supposed to be. And it looks like bands are uncrossing in front of my eyes. Nope, that's just me. Alright, thank goodness. So anyway, now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to just do a regular fishtail stitch with the last 2 bands. now we should have that there, and we're gonna go ahead and take what we have, flip it around. So if you have your 2 hooks, go ahead, use your 2 hooks, do what you need to do. So with the double-ended hooks, our fancy double-ended hooks, we're gonna go ahead and just slide on over to the other side. Alright, so we're gonna be paying attention to those 2, oh, they're uncrossing again. How wonderful. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead again and get another 8 color band, and we're going to be dealing with those 2 loops and then also the 2 W bands there. Make sure they're on the same side of that old W band, and we're going to take our new band, put all of those first 2 loops on, and then the 2 W band loops. Then we're going to have to go searching again for the other 8 color band in there. So hunt for as long as you need to. It's probably in there somewhere. There it is. So we're gonna go ahead and cross that band over and try as hard as we possibly can to put it back on our hook. Oh my. Many struggles, such strength. Wow. Yes, I just put a meme in there. Don't hurt me. Alright, so now we have those 3 loops there. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the other 3 8 color bands we have here. So we're going to grab one of them. We're going to grab one of them. Thank you. We're going to grab one of them, and we're going to go ahead and do a fishtail stitch with what we have here. So that very first loop and that very last loop is what's going to go back on our hook. I mean, you should be used to this by now. Like, you've been doing it like 1,000 times, but like, just you know what to do. So now we're gonna go ahead and just add those other 2 bands, do our fishtail stitches. Oh man, our bands uncrossing again. I'm telling you, after making this bracelet, everything's just not gonna be the same. You're just gonna think you see bands uncrossing, and I'm trying to trick you, mess up your bracelet. Like I said, this bracelet is a struggle. But once you've done that, you've added those 2 bands there, now we just need a couple more 8 color bands, and the pain is gonna be over, unless you make another bracelet, like I said, but don't do that. This tutorial was already cringy enough. We don't need you to, don't make another bracelet, alright? Don't make another one of these. Make anything else but this one. So we're going to get 2 8 color bands, and what we're going to do with it is we're going to take only that first loop there and that very last loop, and that's what's going to be returned to our hook. That's it. So everything's going to get slid on to the band, so it's going to be on there. And then this has the weight of the entire bracelet, so don't mess up. Only that very first and very last loop is what's returned to our hook. And these bands can do whatever they want. If they want to uncross, let them uncross. It doesn't matter, because all we're going to do now is we're just going to take our last 8 color band for this bracelet, finally, and we're going to slide everything on our hook onto that new band, put the other end of that new band on our hook, and that was the easiest part of this bracelet, I'm not going to lie. But now we have that, and now we're going to get our clip, and we're going to just put a seal here on our suffering. So just clip it together, held together by a clip. All of our problems just locked away here, held together by this one clip. And there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and put this clip also on the cap band on the other end of our bracelet. And there we go. It's all over. We can all just look back on this moment, maybe forget about it as best as we can, but it's just time for the outro. Let's just get out of here. Alright, so now you've made the Wheat-Wheaties bracelet, aka the struggle, and if you want to make another one, I mean, you can make another one, but I wouldn't recommend it. And well, hopefully you have it now, and it's I'm gonna throw mine away, honestly. You know what? That's all I have to say for this video, other than thanks for watching, and bye!